If you're even moderately familiar with Pokemon, you know the Kanto region. Whether you started playing in Gen 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, it's the well-known and well-loved starting point of Pokemon. The 8 gym leaders of Kanto are familiar to most of us, and today I want to rank them amongst themselves to figure out who I think is the strongest gym leader in the whole region. Before we get started, a couple of ground rules. First, except when noted, I'm going to be basing this off of the Fire Red and Leaf Green teams, partly because I grew up with those games, and partly because I consider them the definitive Kanto experience. While I like the Let's Go games, the changes to the gym leaders' teams were somewhat substantial, and often took away from the strength of the teams. Finally, I am not considering absolute strength of the respective teams, but rather how strong they are in the context of where they come in the game. Otherwise, the list would be somewhat linear, as Brock and Misty suffer from 2 Pokemon teams with weaker movesets, when that's not really a fair comparison to later gym leaders. With that in mind, let's start with number 8. And dare I say it, we may have an upset early on. At number 8, I have Lieutenant Surge. Yes, someone came in lower than Brock. Lieutenant Surge suffers a lot from frail Pokemon, and the tools the game gives you right before his gym. While his team is fast, it just doesn't hit hard enough, especially if you have a ground-type Pokemon on your team. Nidoking or Nidoqueen are easily accessible at this point, as there is a Moonstone earlier in Mount Moon. Even if you don't have a ground type, the game gives you the TM for Dig on your way out of Cerulean City, which really tees up an easy Surge sweep. So, sorry Surge, but you're bringing up the rear here. At number 7, we have Brock. What put him over Surge in the end was the fact that if you wanted to go with Charmander, the battle could maybe be a struggle if you missed too many Metal Claws, or Brock hits his Rock Tombs. But number 7 is still number 7, and Brock's high physical defense on his Pokemon is severely undercut by the fact that both of his Pokemon are 4 times weak to 2 of the 3 starter types. So good luck on not being last, but number 7 is all you can get today, Brock. At number 6, we have another upset. Giovanni is the last gym leader, and the formidable head of Team Rocket to boot, but he has a team that is just destroyed by 5 Surfs, or even 5 Earthquakes from a strong ground type. Dugtrio, his fastest Pokemon by far, is just too frail to do much, and the rest of his team just gets swept away. I think a lot of you may be confused as to why another Surf-swept gym leader is not in this spot, and I'll explain later, but I looked into my heart and saw too many Surf sweeps to put Giovanni any higher. So maybe stick to crime, or no, that's not right. Maybe get a hobby or something. At number 5, we have Blaine of Cinnabar Island. This may be higher than expected, as he is often swept away by 4 Surfs himself, but I had to give him a little leg up on account of 2 things. First, Rapidash is fast and has Stomp, so in theory it can cause havoc with some flinching. And second, Arcanine is really good, even if it's weak to a common move in Surf. Finally, I have to give some credit to the fact that at least all of Blaine's Pokemon have Fire Blast, which, while inaccurate, is really strong. So if your Surf Pokemon somehow was out of commission, he could give a little fight. At number 4, we have Misty. This seems pretty high up, right? But I had to sit and think, and there were plenty of times that my team had just rolled into Cerulean City, and there was that formidable choice, Rival 2 or fight Misty, and both were hard. If you didn't pick Bulbasaur, catching an Oddish or a Bellsprout was your only chance to have super effective damage, and those Water Pulse confusions could be really annoying. Combine that with Starmie's high special attack and access to recovery, and Misty deserves more shine as a challenging early gym leader. Like, be honest, who did you lose more to all time, Giovanni or Misty? I think the results speak for themselves. At number 3, we have a gym leader that I feel like doesn't get a lot of respect in Erika. And to be fair, this is the ranking I feel the worst about. It's weird, I can remember her team being annoying a lot, but I don't ever remember really losing to it. But when I looked at it on paper, I felt like the team can be really problematic if you're not prepared. Status is flying everywhere, and Victory Bell is fast and pretty strong. Vileplume is super bulky and has some recovery and Giga Drain. Even Tangela has recovery and some bulk. But one thing bumped Erika above the rest, and it has to do with her team in Gen 1. I know I said I would mainly focus on Gen 3, but Erika's wrapping Victory Bell deserves a mention here. In Gen 1, Wrap prevented your Pokemon from moving, so in theory a fast Pokemon could wrap your Pokemon until it died and never get hit. provided the move didn't miss. Victory Bell is really fast, so it had a fearsome reputation as a Pokemon that could wrap and crit your whole team if left unchecked. So here you go, Erika. You may be the 4th gym leader in the game, but you've earned the 3rd spot on this list. At number 2, we have Koga. I think this isn't a particularly controversial choice. He is so good canonically he makes the Elite Four later. And his team is built on status and evasion cheese, which sucks to play against, but it is effective, you can't deny that. Not to mention, his weaker Pokemon love exploding, which is a good strategy when his Pokemon drop to lower HP. Every Pokemon on his team knows Toxic, and his Mutt can minimize to reduce accuracy. His Weezing has Smokescreen too, which means it's just a game of chance each time you face him. Combine all of this with the fact that his Pokemon are surprisingly bulky, and Koga is always a challenge to face when things don't swing in your favor. Time for number 1, the strongest gym leader in all of Kanto, and frankly, I don't think it's a surprise. Sabrina takes our spot as strongest gym leader in Kanto, and the reasons are numerous. Her whole team is strong in special attacking, and Kanto is woefully short on steel types, as well as entirely devoid of dark types, and the only ghost type really available is Gengar, who is good, but suffers from ghost moves being physical in Gen 3, as well as a weakness to psychic type. If that wasn't enough, most of her team has Calm Mind, so things can get out of hand fast. But the overall reason, the piece de resistance of her team, is the Alakazam. Fast, incredibly strong, and having access to Psychic as a move, this Alakazam can sweep whole teams in the blink of an eye. Even if you manage to win, it's rarely without at least a casualty or two. It's fitting that Saffron City is in the center of Kanto, as Sabrina is really the centralizing force of the Kanto gym scene. She cannot be bested, and would sweep all of the other gym leaders easily in head-to-head matchups. So congrats, you're 6th on the gym leader list, but you're 1st in our hearts, Sabrina. That ends my list. What did you think? Agree? Disagree? Drop your own rankings below, I would love to see them. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing, it really means a lot. Thanks again.